Okay, so we are episode number 8, hard to believe, of the Teflon Tales. With me, I have Allan Langer, who is my guest. Welcome, Allan.
Ashwin, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited. I'm on the Teflon Tails. This is like, it's like being on Survivor or something.
Oh yeah. So just a little bit of backdrop for people who are watching this either live or after the fact. What is the Teflon Tales? Really, four attributes, right? How do you get hot really quickly? How do you cool down really quickly? How versatile are you? And then being able to try different things while still remaining non-sticky. So, Alan, I'm going to start off with something that I read this morning. This is typically what I do. I do a little bit of read up of my guests and look for that one thing that catches my attention. And this is something you had written, and it's on your LinkedIn webpage. So people who are interested can go read the entire thing. But what I wanted to really call out was you had March 13th of this year when most of the US went into quarantine, and you had 176 contacts on LinkedIn.
That's correct.
And today you have over 6,000. So I'm going to stop right there and walk us through what you've written in the blog, what you went through, and walk us through that inaugural Teflon life of yours.
So it was like everyone, COVID punched us all in the face. And for me specifically, I don't want to call it a business model, but the way I was getting majority of my clients was with speaking engagements. Mm-hmm. So I had in March, I had scheduled 8 speaking engagements were on my calendar in April and May coming up, and 6 of them were actually paid speaking gigs. And normally in a speaking gig, I would walk away with 1, 2, 3, sometimes 4 or 5 clients, and so I'd kind of build a pipeline, and that's how I was doing it. And I wasn't. For me, LinkedIn was it was a place to have my profile, but I wasn't really doing anything with it because I was getting my clients elsewhere.
Yeah.
And then boom, overnight quarantine, all the speaking engagements went away, and the clients I had been working with, I was wrapping up their stuff. So now the new pipeline of clients was gone as well. Mm. So I woke up on the 14th and I was like, holy crap, what am I going to do? Just like everyone else, I don't want you to feel like I'm a special case, but this is my world, and this was rocked my world. I'm like, what am I going to do? And I spent about a day feeling sorry for myself, and then I said, I need to use LinkedIn. I need to reinvent myself online, social media, with the professional social media, not Facebook or Instagram. I have those accounts, but LinkedIn to me was something where I really started diving into, and I went from that day, literally the next week, I started an online group called the Play Don't Pause group, because my concept was, at the end of all of this, when all of this ends, it's your relationships that you build throughout it that are going to be the most important. It's how you handle yourself during this 8 months or a year that's going to determine your success going forward. So I put together this networking group. It's turned into an amazing group. We've met every Friday now for 32 straight weeks.
Wow.
It's incredible. I turned it into more of an educational networking / education. So I have a speaker comes in once a week. They talk for 20 minutes, a half hour about whatever is going to help your business. And people show up every single week. We've got everyone knows each other now. We're all professional friends. People have gotten business out of it. So, and then from that, I started posting content. I started following some of the influencers. I started seeing what they were doing. And what you realize, if you're going to do anything on LinkedIn, it has to be with intention, and it has to be with consistency. And if you have something to say, make what you say consistent, because then you will build your individual brand, and people will start paying attention to you. And like I put in that blog, when I wrote that blog about 3 weeks ago or a month ago, I forget when I wrote it, I went from 176 followers to 5,300 at that point, and now I'm right around 6,000 in a 7-month period. So, and what's neat is I'm not after numbers. I'm not saying, oh, I just want to get a bunch of numbers. My connections are like, I specifically look at who's asking me to connect and who I connect with. I don't just sit there and connect with 100 people a day, or you get these softwares that just connect 100 people, automatically, and they spam everyone and stuff. I don't do that. So these are legitimate connections. And now I'm getting my business from LinkedIn. I'm getting people contacting me for for virtual speaking engagements and for sales training.
Wow. So there's a lot to unpack over there. So let's go things that kind of really resonated with me, right? Number one is we live in a world, like you mentioned, right? LinkedIn has become, in fact, one of my close friends tells me, hey, the highway that we are on is no, and the billboards that show up, that's what LinkedIn is. We're on the LinkedIn digital information highway every single day, and the billboards that show up are the legitimate connections as well as the distractions, right? So
Yes.
how does Allan, from your perspective, and you like what you've done is unprecedented, right, in my books, because people build connections slowly because they need to know who they connect with, like the playbook that you follow. Or like you said, hey, there's a software I want to go from 1 to 1,000 overnight, right? And people just hit everything there.
Right.
So, and the root of how you build your connections comes back to who you are and what you believe in. And this goes back to your post, which is what legacy do you want to leave behind, right?
Yeah.
So that first step, if somebody were to look at it and say, okay, it's not about who you connect with, it's not about the numbers. It starts with you looking inside and saying, okay, what legacy do I want to leave behind? AKA, what's your purpose? So, and you had that when this thing happened, right? On March. And so it wasn't like you had to go discovering your purpose. You just going to figure out your mechanism had to change.
Well, to be honest, I had a little of it, but it kind of forces you to really clarify your message and focus on what your message actually is. And I'll be honest, that first 6 weeks or so, I was doing sales, and I also do marketing assistance. But saying that I was doing sales training and marketing was making my message convoluted. You know, my main thing is I'm going to help you increase your sales. I'm going to help your company sell more. I'm going to help your reps sell more, and I'm going to help you feel better as a salesperson. And oh, by the way, if you need help with your marketing and your website, I can do that. But if I don't lead with that, because if that was part of my sales, I'd be like jack of all trades, master of none, and no one knows what I do.
Right.
So once I realized that my brand was sales focused, I can help with sales, ... That's when things started to really clarify for me. And then when I start reaching out for connections, once you realize that as yourself, as what your personal brand is, everything has to follow that personal brand. Everything, you can't start deviating and confusing people with something else. Like if I did a post strictly on marketing right now, people would be confused because that's not me. That's not my message. But if you know what your brand is and know what your message is, then you can find your ideal client. Okay. You are not going to start, I'm not going to start asking, I don't know, rocket scientists to be my connection.
Right.
That's not going to, they're not going to need sales help. But I will contact vice presidents of sales and owners of companies and CEOs and entrepreneurs, because those are my ideal clients. So once you find out what your message is, and then from there, who your ideal client is, then you can reach out and do it individually, do it with a personal touch. Sometimes you can just have a connection. You don't have to have a message, but you can just have a little 1-sentence message. Hey, I liked your profile, would love to connect. That's it. Don't spam anybody, and don't spend time asking people who have no connection to you from a business standpoint to be a connection. It's a waste of your time, and it's a waste of their time.
So that actually leads me to my next question, which is the last piece. It's a waste of their time. It starts with empathy, right? And you talk about this all the time. And going back to something that we talked about before we hit the go live button, which is, and I've asked this for all my previous guests, because it's something that I personally struggled with, and I've seen lots of my contacts also have this dilemma, especially when you have an employer, right? You have a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
And yet you feel unfulfilled, right? You feel that whether you want to acknowledge it or not, right? Lots of people are in the job because, hey, they need something, they need a paycheck. But
right.
Lots of times you feel hollow inside, right? Come Friday evening, you're on a high, and come Sunday night, you're on a low. So if I look at you right now, author, podcaster, sales coach, and you have this networking group, fantastic networking group, which is so you're doing so many things. What advice do you have for people who are in this 9-to-5 job? They don't like it. and yet they don't know how to start experiment to figure out what their brand is, what their message could be.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it really comes down to, I like to use the phrase, what makes your heart sing? And that's what started my journey, was what has made my heart sing my entire life was writing. I'm a writer at heart. I love to write. Sales became my profession and a secondary love, but writing to me is my happy place. And when I made the decision to write my book, that one decision, I'll never forget. It was 9:30 in the morning on January 3rd of 2018. Wow. It's like, where were you when Kennedy was shot? That's where I made the decision to write my book. And my life changed from that minute on, because the universe, and I'm a big believer in what you put out will come back.
Yeah.
When you're in that happy place, when you're in your energetic zone where you're supposed to be, good things will start happening. So my advice would be, find your happy place, whatever that is. If you're in a 9-to-5 job and you don't like it, but obviously you have a mortgage, you have a family, you got to pay the bills.
Yeah.
The first thing to do is, okay, what is my happy place? What do I need to be? And I guarantee you, if you start drifting toward that, you start doing things toward that, you create a Facebook group, you start a networking group, you start doing things toward that, you'll be amazed on what's going to start coming your way. And then at some point, you may be able to start, okay, I'm going to start doing this and making money with this. And then the long play is, this is going to be my career. And that's what happened with me. When I wrote my book, I did not, I was doing a little consulting on the side, but I did not expect. I wrote the book because I love to write, and I love to write about sales. Mm-hmm. But it completely changed my life, and now I have my own consulting business and left the day-to-day sales job completely. So yeah, find what makes your heart sing. Go toward that. It's like, go toward that light, and your life will start to change just automatically.
Yeah, and again, the way that you mentioned these very many mini experiments, and this is constant iteration, if you will, of getting towards that place. That's really what Teflon is, right? Which is, how do you do? I mean, having these multiple pans on the fire and being able to try different things. So one of the things, again, going back to the resonance across my previous guests, coming back to you, is there is a circle, there is a network, there is a fallback place, which is your source of inspiration. People that you fall back and be able to, hey, it's okay, Allan. I mean, you might have a down day today, but tomorrow's going to be fine. So again, I mean, you've nailed LinkedIn, right? So, and the way that you mentioned those 6,000 connections, these are deep connections on your Friday meetups. Mm-hmm. I mean, again, a lot of, and I've seen this because I've been following you for a while, right? But for the viewers, it is, as part of your discovery, you're also giving back. Mm-hmm. And that sometimes, I mean, it was alien to me up until a couple of years ago, I'll be honest, right? Which is, okay, what have I got to give, right? I'm imperfect myself. So why am I like, hey, follow me? It's like, no, I have nothing to show you, right? But looking at you, looking at Marcus, looking at Feibu, looking at, I mean, Jay Abasi, Katrina, I mean, everybody is about giving. So mm-hmm. How does someone go through that I don't know, imposter syndrome or self-critical nature of, okay, what do I have to give, and who's going to follow me? And like you and I are talking about, even if there's one person who gets impacted by this conversation,
yep,
it's success, right? So again, yeah. any tips on how to get past that point of, okay, do I have anything to offer?
Yeah, I mean, it's not uncommon, especially if you start doing video content. My first, I think Alex Sheridan. He's a pretty big influencer on LinkedIn. We joke. I met him back in March, and he was, he had his journey had already started, but he's come a long way in these last 7 months as well. And we joke, he showed me some of his first videos, and they were terrible, and so were mine. I didn't know I could do subtitling and all this fancy editing that I'm doing now, but you just learn along the way. And you may think that you don't have anything to say, but everyone is an expert in something. Everybody knows something really well. And even if you don't think anyone else is listening, there are people listening. There's that amazing Facebook commercial about the kazoos. Have you ever seen that commercial?
I have not. Yeah, explain it to me.
It's such a great commercial. Anyone who's listening, go on YouTube and type in Facebook kazoo commercial. And it starts, if I remember correctly, there's like an kind of an empty auditorium, and there's like, 20 people in this big auditorium, and they're like watching their 5-year-olds dance, and everybody, all the parents are bored. And one guy pulls out a kazoo and he just blows on it very softly. Mm-hmm. And another guy way across the room sees that, and he takes out his kazoo and he blows on it. So the two of them run outside, and they met their tribe. And then they go into the coffee shop, and other people have kazoos. And all of a sudden, everyone in the area who likes kazoos, who didn't think anyone else liked kazoos, started playing them. And the concept of the commercial is your tribe is out there. Facebook groups is what the message is. Go find your group. So whatever your message is, I guarantee you 100% there's other people that want to hear it. And it may start off slow. You may have one person. Like we said, I almost accept every single invitation I get to be on a podcast, because if it's 10 people listening, that's 10 more people listening that would have heard me the day before. So think of it that way, and trust me, if you're consistent and you're intentional, and you just keep at it and just try to improve every single week, you will get followers and you will eventually get business. It just will happen.
No, it's a great. I mean, my own personal story. Again, going back to what you said, I call this there's a silent following that you have, and people will decide to show up when they want to show up. Mm-hmm. And I've had people. Actually, there's one person who referred to a blog I'd written almost a year ago. That's when our dog passed away, and I was. We were obviously overwrought with emotion. But get this, Allan, Chewy.com is where we used to actually buy Jackie's food from. Right. And this is not a commercial for Chewy. I'm not a paid spokesperson.
I know it. I've seen the website.
So the thing about that is, so we had this recurring food that they used to ship, right, subscription basis, right?
Yep.
And then I forgot to cancel the subscription, and I got this email saying, "Hey, Chewy is sending your Jackie's food," and I quickly called them up and said, "Hey, Jackie's no more." So they said, "Hey, we'll cancel the subscription. No worries at all." And then get this, the next day, I should get a call from Safeway saying, "Hey, we want to make sure that this is the address to deliver flowers to." I said, "Flowers for what? It's not our anniversary or birthday, anything like that." They didn't say anything more. So Chewy sent this huge bouquet of flowers.
No way.
And
That's
just
amazing.
Blew my mind, right? And and so I wrote a blog about it. I mean, when you talk about empathy, when you talk about, because we may or may not have a dog ever, right? May not be a repeat customer. So they didn't even think about any of that. This was like, here's a customer of ours who's hurting. We need to be there for him.
That is such an amazing story, because, and I have one that I'm going to share. It's not as poignant as that, but I call that, I actually did a video when this happened to me. I call it unexpected customer service, because as human beings, we don't expect that.
Yes.
Most 99.9% of the companies that you deal with, they might have good products, but there's no connection. There's just, you're buying the products. It's a subscription based, boom, you get it. You'll never, ever, if you get another dog, you'll never buy food from anywhere else but them. And you're telling however many people about this company. Well, get this. This happened to me over the summer when in the middle of COVID, they were building a Starbucks in my town. Mm-hmm. And I'm a huge Starbucks freak. I know every Starbucks on the East Coast. And it was delayed because of COVID and finally finished. And the first week it opened, the first day, it was drive up only. Mm-hmm. So I drove up, I got my coffee, I had some time, I parked in the front spot, and I was using their Wi-Fi to do some work. And all of a sudden, out of the door was right in front of me, three women came walking out. Mm-hmm. They knock on my window, I roll down my window, and I'm three Starbucks, they were Starbucks employees. Mm-hmm. And I said, "Hi." And then she's like, "I just want to introduce myself. I'm the manager. This is my assistant manager, and this is my head barista." And they introduced themselves. "We know by your truck that you're a big Starbucks fan in the state. So someone in the store noticed my truck from another Starbucks. I just wanted to come out and thank you for being a Starbucks customer."
Wow.
I was looking around for like a camera, like, what? Like, like from Starbucks of all places. Yeah. It totally blew me away that they took 5 minutes out of their day. They walked outside to thank me for being a Starbucks customer. When I got home, I did a video about it on LinkedIn. I wrote a letter to his CEO. I posted it on YouTube. I did every social media thing. I said, you have to go to this Starbucks because there's some really nice people there. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. And it's so many companies miss that boat.
And I mean, it's so strong, right? I mean, you are the biggest spokesperson. I am the biggest spokesperson of Chewy.com. I've said the story hundreds of times, and yet, like you said, we missed the mark of, oh, we need to go after these leads and lead gens. It's such a human connection at the end of the day, right? So one other thing, and this goes back to what you had mentioned in the blog about the legacy behind, right? You were working till 3 a.m. in the morning, trying to reinvent yourself. So one of the challenges, especially when you're trying to be Teflon-like, of having too many pans on the fire, is knowing which ones to turn down, where to cool off so that you can actually spend more energy. So again, any tips for the viewers and listeners in terms of how do you not burn yourself out trying to because you've been through the right, about trying to reinvent yourself, and how do you stay balanced while still trying to get to an outcome that's positive?
Well, it really comes down to really supreme organization. You know, I really had to train myself. I actually I have it sitting right here. I created my own, I call it my action planner, because there's so many planners out there. There's so many different things. But this one actually has yearly goals, quarterly goals, monthly goals, and then it has what I'm doing for the week. And then these are like the top 4 clients that I'm working on. And I fill this out every Sunday night. And what it does is rewriting your yearly goals once a week really implants them in your subconscious. Your quarterly goals, it's the same thing. Like, when you start getting toward the end of the quarter and you didn't start number 4, like, okay, it kind of kicks you in the butt a little bit. Then monthly, and then obviously the weekly stuff. That's really helped me stay focused and stay online and really prioritize. Okay, I know I'm going to stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning tonight, but I need to do this. And here's something that helped me tremendously. And this was from Kiara Cavone. She has her own podcast. This is totally credited to her, but this has been a game changer for me. And I can't stress enough to people who are listening to try this. Everybody writes down their tasks. They write down, like, during the day, like, here, this is my day today. And this is all the stuff that I wrote down that I didn't have to do this morning that I now have to do. I'm going to take those tasks and I'm going to give them a time slot instead of just leaving them as tasks. Because what happens when you have a to-do list, human nature is you're going to do the easiest thing first. Correct. And then you're going to go on Facebook, and then you're going to do something else. And then you're going to get distracted on your phone, and then you're going to do real work. And then your task list just keeps going over to the next day, to the next day. Yep. But if you take that task, call Mr. Smith, 10 a.m. to 10:15, it's in your calendar. You actually do it as like it's an appointment. Edit your podcast. Like, I would just have, edit podcast. And I would do it whenever I was like, oh, I guess it's 11 o'clock at night. I better do my podcast. Yeah. Now I give it a time. Like, I'm doing this at 10:30 today, and I stop everything and I do it. So if you can give yourself some really solid intention and focus on what you want to do, prioritize them, but then give every single task an actual date and time that it needs to be done, you will triple your production. When I heard her tell me this, I couldn't believe that. I never even saw that before. And it's just a brilliant tip to utilize.
Yeah, I'm gonna start doing that, because you're right. I mean, I have this long to-do list, and it's just, hey, I'll get to it when I'll get to it. But this is amazing, because the other thing that again, as an entrepreneur, as a solopreneur, I think you are the business and you are the human being all in one, right? And sometimes I use this with my colleagues in mid-sized larger companies, saying, hey, they might be really good at quarterly business reviews and annual financial planning. I said, have you done a quarterly personal review? And you have fiscal year. What about personal year 2021, right? And applying the same principles that apply to business apply to yourself, right?
Yeah.
and see how it goes. So that's amazing. So one last thing, I know this is one of those things that is probably one of the hardest things for people. I know it's definitely for me, is staying non-sticky.
Okay.
Being you want to be passionate, right? You want to give it all, but knowing that, hey, like you were mentioning, right? The Starbucks, pretty much it's like, hey, you used to sit over there and you'd have these nice dialogues. Now it's like, hey, you want to get in and get out fast or go through drive-through. So the restaurant industry has changed.
Yeah.
As have so many industries. So how do you not get wound up? Like, again, I'm putting you on the spot because this happened with you. How do you not get wound up in the past? You said you spent exactly one day just trying to come up to
Feeling sorry for myself.
feeling sorry for yourself, right? So how do you kind of say, hey, I need to move on? How do you stay non-sticky, and what any tips for that? Final question.
Yeah, it's a brilliant final question because there's a lot of different answers to it based on your personality. I wish I had, the single answer, like, hey, just pick yourself up by your bootstraps and, get going. It really comes back for me. I think if you're feeling sticky, if you're feeling stuck, I think that goes back to you're not doing something that is making your heart sing. Mm-hmm. So I think I would go back to that and say, okay, I'm feeling stuck. I'm feeling lethargic. Day to day, I'm doing the same thing. Think about what is going to make that change. What is going to make you happy, and then start gravitating toward that. Because I think that for me, it was almost, that was like a survival mode for me. And I could have curled up in a ball and not did anything, but that's not my nature. But I also started doing things that I really enjoy doing. And it's kind of weird to say it, but COVID has been this awful thing. But I think a lot of us are going to come out of this a lot better off than we were when we started. Like, if there were no COVID, would I ever have been on LinkedIn the way I am now? I don't know. Probably not. I don't know. But this forced me to completely turn into who I am. And I know that I'm a better business person. I'm a better sales trainer right now. I'm a better speaker because of what I had to do. And that was because of COVID. So find what makes your heart sing, go after it, go toward it. And again, good things will happen.
Yeah, I can't top that. So again, thanks for your time, Allan. I know it's late for you. It's amazing, right? I mean, you're my 8th guest, and every single guest has been in the East Coast time. So I have to thank you guys.
No problem.
To actually show up late. I know it's difficult sometimes. So thanks for your time. Stay safe and keep putting out those amazing videos. And I'm going to join your Friday session. I promise.
Yeah, I'll send you an invitation. No question. We'd love to have you. Absolutely. You definitely would add a lot to the group.
All right. Thanks.
All right, Ashwin. Thanks for having me on. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.